Well, welcome to question and answer number 22. We've done 22 of these already, and they're all still out on the channel. Good information to share. Today we're going to try to share some information, some of it about tires, some of it about wheels, cast wheels. Some of it I know the answer to, mostly the painting questions that come in, and some of it you may know as much or more than I do, and if you do, please leave a comment and we'll try to share it. And if you'd like to see your motorcycle or your project featured on this video, please send me some pictures. I'll put all that information at the end of the video, how to contact me by email. But for right now, if you're new to the channel, we try to share our passion for motorcycling by doing practical modifications, beautiful rides in this part of the country, and always share the information at hand. Now on today's video, we have some really interesting information about tubeless and tube tires. Stuff that I'm not sure I knew, and I'm going to try to find out more. I'm going to try to share what came in on the comments. Some good information about painting if you're painting a motorcycle, and I know Derek is right in the middle of painting his bike. And if you have a passion for motorcycling, especially old motorcycles that need a lot of tender love and care, I'll try to help with a little bit of information that I know and I try to share on my channel. The first question today, and this is one that I've heard many times, and it's a common question. It's totally legitimate. It's from a fellow named ZEEUW. I don't know how to say that. I don't know if that's a handle or a real name or what, but anyway, we'll try to answer this question in detail. And his question is, he's painting a bike, and he wants to know, once you sand through the first coat of primer, should you recoat it with primer? And the answer is pretty simple. If you have a part, and this is a really common question, a lot of people use the primer as kind of Bondo to fill in. So what they do is they put on primer filler and sand it. You see this on the car shows all the time where they're using it to block sand the things out. On a motorcycle, it's really not a good idea to do that because there's so much vibration. Even on a modern bike, you want to keep the paint as thin as possible. But you also don't want to have, here's what you don't want to have. If you have a part, let's use a part just to make an example of. You have a part and you've sanded through, usually on the high spots or on the edges, and then what you don't want to have is you're going to put on the color paint and it's going to show. There's going to be, it's not going to be perfect there. So my suggestion is sand out as much as you want off the primer, but then at the very end, when you rub your hand on it and you feel it's really perfectly smooth and you're happy with it, put on a 1 molecule thin coat of primer, because don't forget, especially if it's primer that etches or primer that seals, you don't want to go right onto the old paint. You want it to be sealed or etched with the primer. The primer, think of the primer as glue. It's going to glue the paint to the part, and that is really good information if you're new to painting. This is a little preview of a project Luciano is working on. He bought 3 used GPZ 1000s, and from the 3 of them, he's managed to make 1 bike and has a spare engine and 3 titles. And this is a little preview of the project so far this winter. Now this comment is from Mark. Mark is painting and having a problem with cracking in the flexible areas. Now there's 2 things about this. Again, I say keeping the paint thin is good, and keeping it bonded with a good coat of primer. Primer sealer if it's plastic, etching primer if it's metal. Getting that bond, because when you have a crack, a lot of times what's happening, and you don't realize it until you look at it under a microscope, the paint is coming off the metal or the plastic, and then it's stretched. It's from heat, expansion, cold heat, it cracks. It's really something. Once you understand it, then you realize the reason is you need to bond the paint. And I've been doing this for a lot of years and had all of these problems in the past. And you also need to be aware of if the bike is flexing and you've got a high vibration area, you want to be especially careful you get a good bond and don't make the paint too thick. And believe me, in the old days with acrylic lacquer, everything cracked. It was terrible. I painted when Honda 750s were first came out. Everybody was painting them pearl white and putting stripes on them. I made a lot of mistakes on those days, and you'd go out and 6 months later, the guy would be back with a big crack in the paint. Oh, but that was acrylic lacquer. Modern paints, by the way, are a whole ton better. The modern 4-to-1, the 5-star, the Gavco, those are all high quality paints, and they don't really tend to crack like the paints from 20, 30 years ago did. A little progress report from Australia for our friend Stephen Walker, who's doing the wheels of his R1. This looks like exactly the wheel I have on my R1, in fact. And this progress, he said it took 6 hours to get it to this point here with the stick. Now, this comment is from a fellow named Rich PDMAN. I don't know if that's his last name or a hand. Again, I don't know. I only take what comes in on on the comment section. And he said he was real happy to have watched the seat cover video. He said all the information was to his advantage, and he was able to do the seat on his bike without any problem. And the thing I'm always amazed about the seats, I always look at somebody who spent a lot of time doing the paintwork, a lot of time maybe doing the wheels, polishing, cleaning, getting it, and they neglect the seat. And the seat, they're ripping it. Now, to that end, Joe Padula found and we're going to do this in the near future, found a replacement seat cover for his GS 1100. If it works out, we're going to make a video, of course, of doing it. If it works out, I'll put one on my bike too. And what happens, vinyl, of course, like people like me, you just get old and you have problems, it cracks, it stretches. But having a new seat cover on a bike, and you can do it for about 20 bucks, it's real easy to look at the video. The material's available in all different colors if you want to have a custom, some kind of custom look. But even if you just get the Joann Fabrics black vinyl stretch on a new cover, it's really a nice upgrade. And I don't think there's any reason even a relatively new person wouldn't be able to do it. And if you can get a helper to help you, as per the video, it's a piece of cake. You can be done in maybe an hour, hour and a half. This is a progress report we got from Scott. He's working on a V-Star, and this is a little picture of what he dealt with. He bought this bike inexpensively. This is the before picture. This is the after picture. Now he's really getting, that's a top level job as far as I'm concerned. And Scott, I have to congratulate you. That is exactly what I would do if I was doing a restoration. Now Steve had a really good question. And not a question, it's a comment, and it's a legitimate comment. It's something you may not know. I know from experience, so I'm going to try to share what I know. And he said it on the videos, I've repeated that the FCR had 3 paint jobs over 10 years, and he's right. Maybe it's repeated more than you need to know. And, well, but I have to tell you why it's repeated. And if you've ever written a column for a magazine, I wrote for Fly-In Models for several years. And I was told by the editor that I need to repeat some things on a cycle of about every 2 years because they have new readers coming in. And the new readers haven't seen that tip that you've done 2 years ago. So what happens, it's on my video channel because I learned as a columnist, I learned every once in a while you have to repeat that information because in our case we have 11,000, as of today, more than 11,000 subscribers. Well, they all didn't join us 10 years ago when I started this. Some of them joined us yesterday. They don't know about that tip of that, or fixing the fairings, or changing tires, or polishing titanium. They don't know about that. They haven't seen those old videos. And some people don't really know how to search the channel properly to find them. And sometimes I have trouble finding them. There's almost 2,600 now. So sometimes I get lost in the woods there trying to do it too. But the point is, if you have a good piece of information to share and you're on a podium where you can share it, 2 years later, share it again. 2 years later, share it again. And roughly, because the people that are watching haven't seen all those episodes and all those things. And Steve has given me a lot of good tips over the years. And this is one I feel like I just need to share why I do that and why I repeat some of the things, like fixing the fairings. A lot of people, oh, I saw you fix the fairing. Oh, yeah, but there's different techniques and different fairings and different, some are plastic, some are carbon fiber. And Vlad just got a set of all carbon fiber fairings for his Buell, and every one is different. So repeating things, sometimes it gets redundant to the audience, but in the long run, we're not here to avoid giving information. We're here to share the information and share it with as many people as possible, and the price for that is sometimes you have to be a little redundant. Now, our good friend Henry Hawk, and he added this VFR to his collection. It's a beautiful bike. It's the one Bob Navola was in love with and had two of in the late Bob Navola. And seeing the bike reminds me of Bob, and it reminds me of all the days we spent in Bob's garage working on our bikes back when the A-team was at full force, like the Mafia. Now, I had a comment come in, and from a fellow named Scott Maz, and this is I have heard this 1,000 times, and I agree. Scott, you're not alone. He had a 77 RD when he was 17, and he has 3 now. Well, I had RDs back when I was young, and I only have 1 now, so you're 2 ahead of me. But I guess we've all gone through this cycle of you want the bikes you had when you were young, thinking maybe it'll be like a time machine. Then what happens? You look in the mirror and you go, uh-oh. But it's easier to restore the bikes and have them shiny and bright and looking in your garage than it is to go to get a facelift, that's for sure. Anyway, more questions that I don't really know the answer to this. These are the things I tend to think maybe I need to do a little more research. I had a person send in a comment. I didn't write their name down. It's my fault. And they said they have an RD. It's got cast wheels, a 77, and they use tubeless tires. Now, I had thought about doing that, to be honest. And then I thought, I don't know. You know, I tried to touch base with other people that had RDs. Now, Joe Padula has tubes in his. I know that. And I know Luciano put tubes in the ones he had because the one of them had spoke wheels. So I'm not sure about this. But now, on the hand, this thing of using the older bikes and just that have cast wheels, using tubeless tires, I use them on my GS. Since the first set of tires I replaced, I never put tubes in them. I don't know if that's the right thing to do. It's always worked for me, but I don't want to give that information out and then there's a counterpoint to it. But if you do that, and it's in conjunction with Curvy Girl, you've got to put a Schrader valve in, and what happens with these old cast wheels, especially the RDs, and I have 5 of these wheels, where the valve locks in, they're really not machined nice and smooth. Obviously, they didn't need to seal it. With a Schrader valve, a Curvy Girl seals on the side. It also, I would think there's some reason to seal the top, maybe not. But anyway, I've used the Curvy Girls for so many years, and talk to Julie when you order them. She'll make sure you get the right ones. And they are really, really handy because they encourage you to check the tire pressure every time you ride the bike. And if you don't check the tire pressure every time you ride the bike, well, some people don't, and it just happens. I've been riding in some really, really cold weather. I went out, it was really cold out, I wanted to ride. And I remember on the Ninja, I remember checking the tire pressure and saying, as I'm pushing the bike out of the garage, before I pre-flight, I said, oh, it feels like I got so low tire pressure. And what had happened, because the temperature had really gone down from, probably the last time I rode the bike, it was 60 degrees. Now it's 40, I don't know. The tires were both 2 pounds lower than what I like to ride. So checking them and being able to check them conveniently to me, that's a really good tip. Really, a really good tip, in fact. That's something there's these things that I think they pay for themselves right away, in the fact that you don't get flat tires far from home. And in case I had 3 flat tires in the last 2 years, and 1 in the R1 and 2 in the MT, and I caught both of them before I went out on a ride. I realized they were low on pressure, so good idea. Some people don't agree. We could still be friends. Some photos that came in from Dallas out in California of his bikes, and of course the GS. We featured that on our video many times, and his Goldwing. And he did a lot of work restoring that Goldwing, and it looks like it really paid off. Now, he goes on long rides like Henry Hawk does, and Scott is anticipating going on an epic ride, and so is Jose. So I don't know, having a touring bike or what bike I would want if I was going on an epic ride. Right now, the epic ride I go on is not that far from home, 3-4 hours the most. Oh, I was so happy to hear this because I've dug up a lot of old videos that have Bob Navola, Bob Gordon, and people that unfortunately have passed on, friends. And I was so happy to hear how many people commented. I didn't even think I'd get that many comments. Thanks for putting that out there. They love seeing the old videos, and they love connecting with the people, our friends that have passed away. Well, I'm going to try to look for more in the future and of course add them into the videos. Now, just what we were talking about before about the curvy girls, a fella named G-O, I don't know if that's his name, commented on Curvy Girl, asked me how long I've been using them, and probably 10 years, and probably Julie knows my name on a first name basis. I've recommended other people get them from Curvy Girl. Chris has gotten them, late Bob Navola got them, and Curvy Girl is, to me, is worth the price. Now I know they make ones that are cheaper and you can get them off the internet. I don't know. I don't use them. I don't have them. Because something on the tires is not where I want to look to save a few dollars. I don't want, believe me, I am really conscious of how important it is to have good tires and that they have the right air in them. That's a real thing. Now, I'm not in the same vein about tires and wheels and stuff. Capone 83 has a new R1. In the manual it says to tighten the rear wheel to 140 foot-pounds, and he's got a 2014 that says on a 2014 tighten it to 108, and he wanted to know if I knew the correct torque, if it was 108 or 140. To be honest, I don't, and when I don't know something, I just, number one, admit that I don't know. My R1 is different. I use the torque setting. I have the factory manual, but that's an 09, not so. I don't want to give you the torque setting for an 09. I'm sure they change things now. So what if you need to know this kind of information? Well, contact Yamaha. I have found when I need this information and I need to know it accurately, usually they have a contact us button somewhere and they will try to get you the information. The R1 forum, I know they have always had good quality information, and what I would do, and this is the part that I can recommend because I know this is true, if you're not in doubt or you have a torque wrench that isn't accurate or whatever, and you're a little suspect, I would ride the bike, come home, put the torque wrench back on and see if the setting changed. And if it changed, I'd be thinking maybe that has to be a little tighter. But it may not be unusual. And I remember, just as a side note, when Luciano got his first Ducati, he was amazed how tight you had to make the rear wheel axle nut before you put the cotter pin in, that circular cotter pin. And I was thinking, I wonder if it has to be that tight. I don't know, but I would think the factory would be very willing to share that information. And as a safety thing, it's worth doing a little research on that. So anyway, those are the kind of things. Well, Nico Wings loved my 12,000 mile maintenance on the MT-09, and it's basically this: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's information I've shared on previous videos, and that information that I shared came from the late Kenny Augustine, who was a professional factory road race MotoGP mechanic. He never minced words, and he always told it like it was. So I passing that on from Kenny and from the grave, and that has always worked for me. And his information about not fixing things that aren't broken, there's a lot to be said for that in life. Some photos from Henry Hawk on his epic ride, and boy, oh boy, I'm not able to do this anymore at 77. And again, I really have respect for people that hit the open road with a tent. And now, David, I figured I'd answer this question. I don't know how to answer this question. He says he likes my attitude of not being immature. Well, when you're 77, you can't be immature. You're just too old to be immature. But I really am immature at heart. It's just my body that's shot. So anyway, David, Karen agrees with you that I should be a little more immature or mature. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I am what I am, and that's it. And I'm glad you like it. And by the way, send a copy of that to Karen. And I just think if you're going to go on a long cross-country ride, having a real touring bike is a real asset. I don't think I'd want to go on my RD cross-country, that's for sure. This looks like a perfect bike to go cross-country. Anyway, this is the kind of question, why we have to repeat things over and over again. Phil must not go back 10 years into videos. I understand that. Videos that I watch, sometimes I watch it and they refer to the previous video, and I can't find it on the channel, so I just, it's on me. So he wanted to know what CA is. When I repeat about, we did a lot of fixing of fairings videos in the last month. CA is officially called cyanoacrylate. What they do is it's a glue. You might think of it as crazy glue, but when you buy crazy glue in the store, it's kind of a watered down version. It's like Windex that they put water in. I could just use that for an analogy. When you buy CA from a hobby shop, any hobby shop, and I buy mine from Brodak.com, BRODAK.com. The reason is Brodak is one of the biggest suppliers and they have fresh inventory. So having fresh inventory means my shelf life, and you keep it in the refrigerator, not the freezer, that extends the shelf life. But the stuff that they make for models, from model planes, and now, I was thinking of watered down Windex. The stuff they make for model planes is a lot stronger than the stuff you buy at Lowe's that you put a dot on and you glue a cup back together. So I would suggest, if you really need it, any hobby shop that's local. It usually comes in 2 ounce, 1 ounce. It comes thick and thin, and there's always kicker. Think of it as crazy. You put the part on, put a drop of kicker, the tiniest amount. The kicker is free on, and a tiny amount will turn that to glass almost instantly. But the good news is it sands. You can sand it. It's a little tougher than Bondo, but the good news is it doesn't crack like Bondo does. So if you're doing a job on a collector bike or your favorite bike that you don't want to take any chances this is going to go wrong, use the CA and get it from a supplier where they have fresh CA. Okay, another great Guido. Guido, I love this. RG250 was his first bike. He sold it, and he's never sold any other bike, but he wishes he could get back that RG250. Boy, are you right. I wish I had my 55 Chevy. I wish I had my Air Coupe. I wish I had blank, 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 but all of my H1s and H2s, and all of that money that I got, I spent it on pizza pie. It's amazing. When you're young, you sell things and just the money goes out the door. And then you get old like me and you say, I wish I had it back. That's absolutely true. That's not, I'm making it up. In many years, I decided I would never sell any motorcycles I bought because I'll be sorry I sold them. And I've hung on to these old girls for a long time, renovated them, put new sheetrock in, put new this, that, painted them, upgraded them. And at this point in my life, I'm so glad I still own them all. Anyway, this is a question from Henry Hawk. I don't really know the answer, but maybe somebody out there does and would like to share it. Why did manufacturers stop using 16-inch wheels, like I have on my GPX 750R? Well, to be honest, I don't know, because I love the way that bike handles with the small front wheel. It steers like, oh, just beautiful. I wish I could make some of the bikes with the 17-inch wheel. I wish I could see if I like it better. And there must be a reason. Obviously, being able to make different tire choices. I think there was one bike that even came with a 16.5-inch wheel, but I'm not sure. But anyway, Luciano, just interesting information, is restoring a GPZ that has a 16-inch front wheel. He had to go buy a tire and found out, as I did with the RD, not all tires are available. Guess what? It's a modern world. Nothing's available. But anyway, this is a point. I don't really know the answer. I know the feel of a bike with a 16-inch front wheel is just heavenly. But I don't know. It's the kind of thing, if you don't know, just admit you don't know. And like I said, my GPX 750R has a 16-inch wheel. It was a little bit of, the Sport Demons are still available. I don't know if he wanted to try a Sport Demon. But anyway, that was one of the choices. And I know other manufacturers that make it, but when they sell out, they don't always stock up like with 17s. So Henry, we're going to try to find out an answer. If somebody will send in a comment, there's probably somebody who really knows, but unfortunately I'm not one of them. But I suspect that's the reason. Now, another tip. If you have a bike with a 16-inch front wheel, an 18-inch back wheel, or some classic bike that the tires were at one point in time hard to get, and you haven't shopped for tires recently, you might be shocked when you find out not all tires are available. And thank you, Vlad, who hunted me down tires for my RD when they were not available anyplace else. He watched the seat cover video, and we posted a couple of them in the last 6 months or so. And he has an RT 1100. I don't see any reason you couldn't do that yourself. And if you do, please send me a picture of the final seat. And if you have a problem, leave a comment. By the way, just for people that might not know, I look at the comments every night, sometime in the middle of the day, depending on how busy I am. And I try to give short answers to what any information I might have. Searching out parts. Somebody doesn't know what kind of thinner to use, that kind of thing. But then I try to write down, and unfortunately I didn't get this fella's name correct, but I do that, and I usually have a lot of other things I'm doing at the same time. And then I try to, on our question and answer videos, answer it with a more detailed amount of information. But anyway, this was, I hope, some information on this video is worth sharing. And if you'd like to send pictures in and have your picture included or your project, and I'll put it up on the screen, my email is fzrgui72618@gmail. And please, if you'd like to share, you'd like to be on the video, I'm more than happy to share it. And please put it in an email as an attachment. It makes it easier for me to get it out and in the correct place on my video. Now, we've done 22 of these question and answer videos so far, and I'm being honest, in the beginning I didn't know how it would be received. It was received better than I thought it would be, and thank you to everybody who sent nice comments, encouraging comments, and to the people that sent critical comments, because we've tried to learn from that. Hopefully we've been able to make slight adjustments to the way we present our information. And thank you, of course, to everybody that sent photos of their motorcycles, their projects, or whatever. They're sharing their lives, because in our passion for motorcycling, in reality, we're sharing our lives. And there's no way to escape that, whether you like it or not. And it's the common bond we all have. It seems like most of my friends enjoy getting out on the open road, or enjoy going on a racetrack or on a dirt biking or whatever, or maybe all of them. And I have owned motorcycles of various types for a long time. I got my first little motorized bike when I was 12 years old with a lawnmower engine, and I've had a collection of motorcycles all my life. I've never had less than one or two, and there was times I had a lot more. And during the AMAR days, it seemed like the garage was always full of junk. Anyway, to all our friends, and thank you one and all for sharing the photos and sharing your passion for motorcycling. Now, about our channel, if you're new to this channel, we try to share something, usable information, practical information, something that would allow you to enjoy the passion for motorcycling at a little bit higher level. And we try to do it with economy in mind. Not many of my friends have unlimited money. In fact, I don't know anybody that does. We all try to do it on a budget, and by sharing the information, it just makes the motorcycling safer, more fun. We share our meetups, we share our get-together, and the humor. A lot of people commented on how they like the humor of when we get together, and, well, that's part of it. And that's part of why I've loved motorcycling basically my whole life. And thanks so much for watching.